Yeah, I wasn't upset by Dad. It was just I've got a lot going on, and that was not like dealing with Firestone was not another thing, and I didn't want to deal with the whole break situation thing.
I know.
And
that's what I was thinking. You didn't want to have to deal with that.
And he was brought it up, and I was like, yeah, you're probably right, but at the same time, like I had already like consigned myself to not deal with that.
Pushing things through is not fun. Sometimes when you're on the receiving end.
I mean, I didn't disagree with him. I think it's a smart thing. They've got a deal going on. So like, he saw that and was like, oh, this would be a good time to at least see
he's
if
trying
it's
to
worth
save you
it.
money.
Yeah.
No, I know Dad means well. He wants to fix it for you. I think you have a little bit of that in you, and you got it from both of us. Yay! I want to fix things. He wants to fix things. And so double dose.
Yeah. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, it can be a good thing, right? Fixing people. It's nice because, like, I can see. Now, I can't see it in myself, which is insane, right? But I can see it in other people almost immediately. Oh, that's what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you'll say something to me, and I'll be like, oh, that's this. Or Dad will say something to me, oh, that's this. Well, who wants to hear that? I mean, when you're not coming for advice, it's difficult to give advice to people
or to take it in
and bombard them like I do. Like I can really bombard people. So I'm trying really hard to kind of have that more. Like grandmother was so good at that. She didn't give advice unless you ask her. Now growing up she did, but as a grandmother she didn't. And then like with me she didn't once you guys were born. Like we had such a great relationship. It was awesome. So I'm trying to model myself after that. I'm falling very, very short, but it is a nice goal to have.
Yeah, I think it's easy too when a loved one comes to you with their problems. It's not like I think Rebecca and I do something really awesome. Well, we try to. It's not always perfect, but we try to ask each other like, are you looking for a solution or are you looking for me to just listen, right? And
I think that's great.
But we say we try to do that, but I feel like most of the time I'm in my brain is like, oh, let's try to fix this problem before I even, and then halfway through I'm like, you know what? I should have totally just asked you if you wanted to me to support you or to try and fix.
Yeah, but you're aware, and that's the first step. Relationships are hard. They're just hard. I believe we are built for relationships and community. I think that's a God thing. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean they're easy, and the hardest thing, like I believe we all bring different things to the table, right? We have different gifts, and we need each other because of our different gifts, but often we want everybody else to be like us. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And that's really a difficult thing to kind of understand for a lot of people. I know Dad and I've struggled with that for years because he will say, well, why can't you be more, like an accountant, right? He doesn't use those exact words, but that's not my gift, right? And I can certainly learn it and I can appreciate it because I don't think you get to get off the hook just because you're not good at something. I think you still have to have a little bit of effort put into it to understand, oh, okay, maybe that's not my strength, but I'm going to do my best, right? Mm-hmm. But Dad sometimes would be like, well, I don't understand why you don't, like, this is so important to me. Why don't you understand it the same way I do? and I'm always like, because my brain doesn't work that way. Like, we're great as a team. Oh my goodness. Like, if you look at his gifts and skills and my gifts and skills, we make like a complete package, but separate. I'm lacking a lot and he's lacking a lot. And so he thinks I need to be more like him and I think he needs to be more like me. And so it's a difficult, it's a journey. Everything's a journey, right? Yeah. Yes. So, and I'm finding that even with my art and doing this classes, in-person classes right now, I really want to help these people, all people really, and I have to kind of start a little smaller. And I got a little overwhelmed teaching in the high school because I had big classes and, there's so many kids and everybody needs something. And I wanted to be all things for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted to be that giver. And I guess one of the things that I'm learning finally now at 58 years old I have to fill my own tank first, right? And how do you do that? Well, we can love because we understand that God loves us. So when we really fully believe that and accept that God loves us unconditionally, 100%, then I can go out and love on others. It pours out. It's overflowing. Does that make any sense?
I think that's an important thing is like, you got to put yourself first in that way. You know what I mean? Like you got to take care of yourself first, and then you can.
Self-care is really important.
Yeah.
It isn't exactly what I was saying, but yeah, that is also really.
I mean,
important.
that's what I interpreted from what you were saying.
Yeah, well, I think it's different because in the world today, everything is about self and individuals, and let me be an individual and let me be okay on my own, and I don't need anybody, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go, right? That's the kind of our society, but we're not really built that way. And then when we can't do it alone, we kind of feel overwhelmed. Like, I know I did that. I mean, I wanted to be completely independent. I don't want Dad to have to help me with anything. And then I need him terribly to help me, but then I'm resentful or frustrated, or I don't even know what is going on. And so kind of in that whole process of renewing my mind, there's my computer. I'm glad it's awake. Kind of in that whole process of renewing my mind, I have learned, and I'm still learning, that self-care is important, but it's not about self-indulgence. It's not about, crashing on the couch and vegging out with Netflix all day. That's not really self-care. It's the renewing of your mind that's self-care. It's really getting to the truth, right? What is the truth about who God says I am? Because once you figure that out, you feel like sustainably better. Like there is no, like everything else is counterfeit. Like you feel better for a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But if you veg out too long, you feel kind of miserable.
Well, yeah, I would agree that that's like more of like an escape, right? So you're trying to escape your issues, and it might have a short-term like benefit for your mental health, but in the long run, those issues are still there. They're still lingering. They're still, feasting, I guess, on you and
absolutely
continuing to grow.
I don't ever want to say that mental health isn't a serious situation. Mm-hmm. There are professionals that can help with that, and there's medications that help with that. I think God is big enough to 100% heal somebody just instantly like that. But often we have to walk that journey first and through it and renew our mind, and we need that other stuff. So I'm not ever saying it's in place of, like it's a big part of it. And counseling is a wonderful thing. I think it's hard to sometimes find the right counselor because it is a personal situation, right? And so you do need to find somebody that you can talk to that is really the best match for you. But and we've done that. We've done counseling. We've done some biblical counseling, which I definitely preferred over just the secular counseling that we've done, because it did bring it back around to renewing your mind and God, and it just felt more peaceful, right? But I still remember the first time that Dad and I did some counseling. Dad was traveling, and he was going to Germany for like 3 weeks at a time, home for a week. Yeah, 3 weeks business, at a time, right? Home for a week for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And we used to call it re-entry when he would come back. And because after 3 weeks, we were in our own little like world set. Yeah. We'd kind of just gotten by, and that always looked so different than what it looked like when Dad was there. And he's so regimented, and like everything has to be a certain way anyway, that when he came back and it was not that way, it kind of freaked him out for that week. So we did some counseling on that, and it was really, really helpful. But the biggest thing I really realized in that counseling was that I was always feeling kind of like the victim, right? I was always feeling like, well, why are you doing this to me? And you're so grumpy and angry and frustrating when we talk, and you're doing it to me, right? And what came out in the counseling was I felt that way. Well, he felt the exact same way. And I was completely like shocked by that. Like he was able to go, into his kind of feelings and say, hey, well, I feel kind of like a victim, and I'm always being yelled at, and I can't ever get anything right, and so it's always a condition of our heart in how we're feeling. Mm-hmm. And we felt the same way. We're both wounded. We both felt those things. And so each time we would have an argument or have an issue, the woundedness kind of came out, and it was the same. It just sounded a little different. It looked a little different, but ultimately the root was the same. Yeah. And I was like, oh. And it really was nice to know that, because I just thought, well, Dad didn't care. Well, he doesn't care. He's doing all this to me. He doesn't care, because he didn't talk about it. He didn't say anything. And so, I was always just kind of like, well, I guess he doesn't care. But obviously he cares. And we've worked through a lot, and it's been good, because marriage is hard. I don't know why we're talking about this now, but we've randomly kind of shifted from art to marriage and
to mental health,
to marriage,
yeah,
and back. But I mean, it's all part of it, right? And no matter what you're doing, no matter what business you're doing, whether you're doing art or business or
or art business
like we're doing, yes. It doesn't matter. You're still going to bring to the table what you have. Like your baggage comes with you. Granddad used to always say the most hilarious thing. He was like, well, and I'm sure other people say it too, but I would say, well, I'm gonna start this new job, or I'm gonna go try this. And he was like, okay, but you're taking yourself with you. And I was like, fine, whatever. I mean, nobody really wants to hear that,
no, No, they don't.
I was excited, but he was so right. And I finally get it. Like, my problems, my issues don't go away because I try something new, in an attempt to kind of like fix them without fixing them, right? Like distraction is what we're really talking about. If I change jobs, but I bring the same habits with me, then I'm going to have the same experience over and over again because I'm not going to the root of it. So anyway, that's kind of my journey though. I mean, I've really, I guess none of it's wasted though. And I love that in the kingdom, nothing's wasted, and everything has been a stepping stone. Like, God has brought beauty from ashes. And he promises to always do that in every aspect of my life, right? I didn't finish school. I kind of fell on my face. I got to go back. I got to do it again and do it with you guys helping me. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Getting my art degree when you were in high school. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. It was really Alec that got to help me with statistics. I'd only left 4 classes. I'd almost finished at the University of Georgia, and I don't know, my life fell apart. And we won't go into any of that right now, but I had to move back home, and I still had 4 classes left to finish. And they were not art classes. They were really fun classes, like Biology 2 with a lab and a physics class. Woo! Because that's what I had
the artist's
left. I mean, I could have taken
right
chemistry
there.
instead of physics, but I was like, it doesn't really matter. Like, that's a toss-up. And the physics didn't have the lab, I don't think, or maybe it did. I don't remember. Anyway, so the University of Georgia wouldn't let me finish as long as you guys were little and we were moving around, because they wanted me to come and finish there. The last 15 hours had to be completed at the University of Georgia. But by the time you guys were in high school, or at least Sean and Alec were in high school, they were allowing people to do stuff online more. And so they realized, okay, all right, you can finish there and get your degree. But now your 4 classes are 6 classes, because the 2 that I had exempted were no longer exemptable. My AP Art History, I had to take an upper level art history, which was fine. I loved that. And I had to take a math, because when I'd gone into the program in 1982, I took a test and was exempted from all my math. I didn't have to take any math. And thank you, Granddad. He's a math major. I'm sure I got a tiny, tiny portion of that from him. Very tiny.
But you lose that. I mean,
very tiny.
That's...
Well, yeah, I hadn't had math since high school. And so they made me take an upper level math. I couldn't just take like a regular math class because I'd taken the test to exempt from it. So now they were like, well, you can take calculus or you can take statistics. And I was like, well, I took statistics in high school. I guess I'll take statistics now.
Yeah, calculus is not fun.
No. Well, neither is statistics.
No, that's true. But I mean, I feel like calculus is a bit more hard.
Oh, did you take statistics in high school?
I took AP calculus in high school. And
yeah.
So I actually because Dad was an engineer, and I was like, you know what, being an engineer sounds like a great idea. Like, I could totally see myself doing that, solving problems. And then I took calculus.
You'd be a good engineer.
I took calculus and physics the same year in high school, and was like, I'm good. I don't need the rest of this.
Plus, you had Alec in college going, hey, don't do this unless you really love it. Because Calculus 5 in nuclear engineering, not really everybody's cup of tea.
I was good at it. I just didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. Like,
Wasn't your passion?
No, not at all.
Well, I can promise you it was not mine either. And so what was really fun, and I love how God works and just sort of brings you together in that community again, where you are able to kind of get help, right? I mean, how cool that my son, Alec, and then you helped me too. You helped me edit papers. I know you helped proofread some of my papers.
I probably did. I like shoved that back in here.
Fair.
It's a bit.
That's fair. But
every high school boy loves to help his mom write papers.
Yeah. Well, you guys are sweet about it anyway. I don't know. That was kind of cool. It's cool for me. Yeah, maybe it was.
I'm sure that was
not
really
cool
like
for you,
heartwarming for you.
So, well, and it was, I think, really mostly Alec that helped me with statistics. But even at a certain point, he was like, he just didn't have time, and he couldn't really. I had to get a tutor, but he would always help me with that silly calculator, that T185 or 84, whatever, whichever one it was.
I think it was an 83.
Oh my gosh, like
those are.
It was another world.
You have to know. You have to know how to use it.
Yeah,
and
I didn't.
That's the thing. Like, you learn how to use it in high school, and high school had changed so much. Like, like one of the first class they give you the calculator. They're like, hey, this is what you'll like. This is the calculator we're using, and here's how you use it. And then once you get to those higher levels, they just expect you to know how to do it.
Well, I was in the class already with a calculator I didn't know how to use. With information, I was like a foreign language, and I had to learn it all like immediately. So Alec was helping me, and I had an outside tutor in my neighborhood, and then I had a tutor at school, and I made it through. I made it through. But it was, and I ended up with a B in the class, which is miraculous, I can promise you. But it was hard work, and it was really a good learning curve for me to get to go back to school at that age and kind of fix some of the stuff that I had. It's like a second chance. I got a second chance to redeem, myself. And I did have my self-worth tied to some of that, right? Like, oh, I didn't graduate. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I didn't, I don't have this. I messed up. I didn't get to do these things. And I kind of felt some guilt and shame with that. And especially with grandmother and granddad, because they paid for me to go. And I kind of majored in my sorority instead. So I didn't take it seriously. I just wasn't grown up enough. And so this time around, I got to do it right. And it was, right. I got to do it more maturely. That's the best way to say it. I wouldn't be who I was if I hadn't done it the other way first and learned from it, right?
Yeah.
So those are foundation stones. Nothing's wasted. Like, I don't feel like now that I got to do it that, the other's garbage. That was part of my life. Still part of who I am, right? That I know we talked about procrastination and perfectionism before, but that was a lot of my issue in college, and just not feeling good enough. So I would skip class or wouldn't go. And I don't know, it snowballs. It just is so easy for it to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think we are who we are and where we are because of everything that's happened before now and has led us to this point. And I had a friend ask me recently about, like, what would I tell my 18-year-old self now? And I was like, well, I could tell him anything, but I feel like I'd just be trading in the problems I have now for a different set of problems. I could be like
Ooh.
In a different area farther along, but just with another set of issues that I still need to work on. And I feel like the root of that question is like, what are you struggling with now that you wish you could have like helped yourself with earlier? Like, yeah, if I wasn't struggling with what I'm struggling with now, I'd be struggling with other things, right? I feel like we are.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
We're constantly on a journey and trying to better ourselves, and I think like we would hit those roadblocks, no matter, like even if you weren't majoring in your sorority rather than your classes, right?
If I'd gone to school. Well, and I think we all do that. We look back and go, what if? Like, okay, so if I had done college correctly, I'm already catching myself doing that. Mm-hmm. Correctly is probably the wrong word. If I had done college the first time and finished, would I have become a teacher? I don't know. Like, it would have put me on a completely different trajectory. Like, I don't know if it would have brought me back around, maybe. But it would have been a whole different set of experiences, like you said. I agree with that. So I'm grateful for where I am right now.
Exactly.
The woundedness and the crazy stuff and all, because, you can grow from it and move on. And so my art business, I mean, I am kind of uniquely qualified to do a lot of these different arms we talked about before because I've done them. Like I've done graphic design and I've done, professional art, and I've done art in the classroom, gotten my master's eventually in education. And so I have, been able to kind of like piece all these things together. And I mean, my big goal for this whole art business is to have this kind of overarching umbrella with a lot of artists underneath it. And I originally had thought that the vision was going to be like a place, like I could see like a big community center. Mm-hmm. And I say community center, but not really a community center. Maybe that's the wrong word, but a big art studio with other artists there, other artist studios there. And we come in the middle and we meet and we, co-create with God and we connect. And then we can each teach and we have a gallery. And it's almost like a community art. Well, see, all these words have such negative, I want to say compound, but that sounds so negative. That's not really what I mean. Just a great atmosphere to work together, to collaborate, right? A co-op, I guess, is probably an artist co-op. But I've seen some of those, in different places that we've lived and even checked some out online. So I think where God's leading me right now is to do this community more online. And I really want to brainstorm and talk to Abigail, and I'd love to talk to you more about what does that look like? Like, how do I start representing artists? How do I build a platform online that will have their work, my work, how do I do that? But I feel like that's where God's leading me. And it may be that I have to do my classes first and get that going, and then it's going to be a process, right? But sure. I definitely think that is going to be the direction I go in, mainly because for now anyway, the land around here in Middle Tennessee is insane. Yes, we live in a house. We own our land here, but we don't have enough room to add it on here. It's in a neighborhood. And so I'd always thought it'd be cool to have a house somewhere with some land and put the studio there on the land with my house so I could just hop in my little golf cart and go to work. I would love that. Right?
And of course, Dad's like hearing that going, what? No, I don't.
We're not moving. Again, we've moved a lot, so he's done for sure for a while. But it's not really feasible right now, so I don't feel like that's what God is kind of. But it's in there. It's like that's my big goal. So online kind of seems doable, more doable, and maybe
especially right now.
Well, yeah, and then so I'm also learning too sometimes that God will give you this idea and this vision, but you can't have it right away, and that's frustrating, right? Well, Lord, you gave me this vision. Why can't, why is nothing working?
Sure.
But you're not ready for it yet. You know that it's coming, but you've got to prepare for it. You've got to grow. You've got to learn. And I feel like that's what I'm doing with the online program, like making these classes. Every time I make one, whoo, man, we learn some stuff, don't we? Every time we get a little better, every time we get a little more efficient, I realize, okay, well, the first time the table was shaking, so we're not going to do that again. So there are all these things that you could possibly have said to me in the beginning, but I wouldn't have really absorbed it the same way if I hadn't done it. So I think that's the journey, and I'm going to be on it for a little bit before I kind of jump out and do the network, right? But
I think it's a great idea.
You like that idea?
Mm-hmm. So
what would you do for the short term now? Like, how would you start something like that? Do you have any ideas on that? You're on the hot seat now, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to be here. It's getting hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to say. I think that's. I'm not sure I'm exactly following, like you're saying, like a platform to where.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see it in my head, but you can't really see in my head.
Yeah, like a platform where you're celebrating other artists as well as your own, and different kinds of art, and how would that?
So I think what it's going to be is, and what keeps coming to mind is almost like an art academy, where I would house other teachers, other artists, and there would be a gallery, and there would be workshops, and there would be classes.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And in that, I would be kind of the administrator, and then in the administrator role, it would be kind of my hub, but it would really be about collaboration and about working together. So because I would love, to be able to offer classes like I did in high school and, when I was teaching high school. And it was just so nice to be able to switch around and do different mediums and explore with other partners, right? We did a lot with Tennessee Tech, and we brought in they did such a good job actually helping us connect. I just was part of it. I didn't do it. I just took the class. And so I did a jewelry making metals class with them. And then they gave me the supplies to do with my class. Like, it was a collaborative thing. And I loved that. Like, that's kind of what I would love to be able to do. Right. So I would be possibly brainstorming with the other artists in the group, the other teachers in the group, and be like, hey, how can we work together? So, okay, you do resin paint bowls and I do this. Let's do a workshop where you two are together. And that's fascinating to me. I would love eventually to have that kind of
would that kind of be like an art school? Like, you just want to open your own art
it may lead to a school, but I mean, school sounds so formal, and I don't really feel like I want it to be like a university or,
Sure.
I really would love people just to come and sample what they wanted. So more like, and I hate to say like an after school program thing, because I think it could run all the time, because you've got homeschool kids and you've got adults that could do it during the day.
Like a camp or something
more like a workshop facility.
Yeah.
Something that, because it would be for adults and for kids.
Yeah, I mean, you would just sign up for classes, but it wouldn't be like a school.
But almost like an art center. That's probably the better way to say it.
Yeah.
An art center. But I think nobody has one of those really online that I've seen. And it's possible that, in 20 years, that will be what everybody has. And I know it's hard to kind of imagine really having a center like that online without a location. So I think that the location will come with it, right? It'll be in the location, filmed in the location. You could still come in person, so you could see classes, and it could be both. But I think it'll start online to build, so that then we can find something once we're bigger. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, makes complete sense.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I'm kind of like, it's in the back of my head, but I also know that you have to be faithful with little to have that kind of manifest and grow. So
sure,
I want to be, producing with you these classes and offer enough curriculum so that people are interested, and we can start building it that way, getting it out there.
Yeah, I think it's a good start.
It's all in my head right now. We had an in-person class this week. I had an in-person class this week with adults, and it was so good. But I noticed there's just so much that I want to teach them. And it's so short. Like, the amount of time is so short. So I do think the online thing is going to be helpful in that way. I also think it will help the in-person people to reinforce it, because
Sure.
we noticed last week already, we had done the class that we'd already filmed, the watercolor class. And then I did watercolor with the class in person. And I said, hey, you've got this free watercolor class. If you go to my website, it's there. It's what we did. And they were like, oh, that's so great, because I was doing and you were talking and I didn't get it all. And I was like, oh, that's really great. Like, so it could be a different tool even than what I had thought originally.
Mm-hmm.
I know it'll be great for those people who just want to do an art class in the middle of the night, right? And just want to break or hibernate and do some art. That's great. But I also think, it would be nice to reinforce. So I don't know. So many options.
Well, the only thing to do then is to, start just trying to put out what's in our head, like, out into the world, and hoping that the world likes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I've done a lot of like podcast, webinar things, just to hear, okay, so how do you do this online with memberships and with classes, and
like, how does the business side look of it?
Yeah, what does the business side look at like? And it's very salesy, and I'm just not a fan of that. I'm always feeling very pushy, and I don't want it to be pushy, but I also know there's some truth in what they say. Like, for instance, sometimes you have to send it to somebody 5 times before they see it. Well, I feel like I'm like really bombarding you if I send it to you 5 times, right? Which is why sometimes, like, I'm frustrated when I look in my own email and I've gotten, I've signed up for somebody's email, and now I'm getting like, hey, what about this? And hey, what about that? And hey, what about this? Like 5 a day. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't like that. It just kind of is too salesy. And I don't really know where it's all going, but I know a lot of people feel that way. So how do I get to people and get their attention, right? Well, you have to be authentic. And so you have to do things that are really, and you got to find your people too. And so I'm in the process still of finding my people. And I thought my people were one thing, and it turns out that I was really kind of appealing to a different crowd than I had hoped online.
Sure.
My online people were, in my head, millennials or very techie people who could, because I know some 75-year-olds who are very techie, which is awesome. But I just thought it would be that group of people who loved online, wanted to do online. So I offered a membership, and I threw it out there, an imperfect membership. We're going to build it as we go. And I loved that I did it because I learned so much. But the people I got 8 members that signed up monthly to be in this membership. They're all local. Nobody was online anywhere. Like, everybody is local. So, that was like an interesting, revelation. So I was like, all right, Lord, so why? And well, it turned out that I think the answer is that I needed to still work through this program some. Like, what I'm offering is more people who know me, people who trust me, people who have that connection with me already want to do. But people who don't know me, it didn't catch them, right? It didn't resonate with them yet. So, and again, it's a process. So I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it. I still have the membership going. I've lost a few people in it, which is also okay. And then I heard the statistics. Oh my gosh, that only 5% of your membership actually are active in the membership. And I was like,
that's kind of wild when you think about it.
What? That's really low.
Like, how do those memberships, like, that's pretty much the statistics saying that those memberships thrive off of other people, like, paying the subscription or whatever it cost me the membership,
and forgetting you have it,
or not even,
or meaning to get to it but not getting to it. And I'm like, and I kind of wanted it to be more meaningful. So again, I learned some more lessons, and I realized, okay, so let me look at myself. Let me look at the memberships I'm in. How active am I in those memberships? And I was quickly surprised to see I'm not in the 5%. Like, I'm maybe sometimes in the 5%, but I'm not completely, out of it either.
Sure.
There are times when I'm like, ooh, I really want to go do this, but it's not always once a month, So as long as you're providing enough options and quality, like, stuff in your membership, it's okay if people aren't engaging. Like, it's okay, because that you're offering, the stuff, and people can engage in it or not engage in it. But that was really a lesson for me too, because, when I have an in-person class, I'm making sure every person receives whatever I'm giving, right? I walk around individually and I help them all individually. And I noticed online, I can't do that. Like, it's completely different. I have to just let it go, because then I start, hey, I noticed you haven't seen, because I can see everything on my end. I did a whole online class on embracing your creativity in there, and people hadn't seen it. So then I was like, okay, let me walk you through it. And so we started doing it little by little, and that was better. But some of it's time. People sign up for memberships and they have a few minutes to do this and that, and then they realize, oh, I can't do all of this other stuff because I just don't have time, or their life changes, or so it's all good. I don't know.
It's all part of life.
It's all part of life.
It's all part of the journey.
I think for me, I like the membership aspect because it has the community part to it. Mm-hmm. But I think these classes going out separately are going to be, I think, a little bit more, for me anyway, a good balance. It's going to help me balance the other.
For sure.
That fixer. We're back to the fixing again, because I'm like, why haven't you looked at this video? I just sent you a video and you haven't seen it yet. I kind of want to go in and micromanage these people.
A little bit.
And well, yeah, because I'm offering this and I'm putting it out there for them, and they're not
And
receiving it.
you want them to have the best
And
experience.
I need feedback. I'm like, okay, so it's okay that you didn't read this, but can you tell me why you didn't? Like, what about it? And so these poor members, and they knew this going in. They knew that I was going to be getting a lot of feedback from them. They're like, yeah, I don't know, I'm really sorry. They'll see me and they'll be like, oh, I haven't seen that video yet. And I realized I should back off. I don't think I need to harass them anymore. And just kind of let it go. But it's a process always. So yeah, we're going to do an oil painting class here. I'm excited about that.
Me too.
But we could do 20 classes for each medium and still not even be the tip of the iceberg, So I like that we're jumping around a little bit, and we're going to offer that, and we'll eventually get a bunch of classes in the catalog. And once I do that, then I feel like I will have a better foundation to then offer other artists to come in. I think right now it's too soon because I'm still figuring it all out, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what people want. There's research you can do to find out what people want. And I am doing some of that, but I still don't know if they're going to want my stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully they will.
You want to end in prayer?
Sure. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for all of your insight and inspiration that you just give us daily, that you help us, that your unconditional love is always there. You are that amazing cheerleader in the background as we walk on this journey with you, with each other, as we learn to work in community and together. We thank you for your provision, your guidance, and your love. We praise your name. Amen.
Amen.